It's been a busy week for the President of the European Parliament, Hans-Gert Pöttering. Between shuttling to and from Lisbon and before Friday's Brussels summit, he was happy to respond to questions from EuroNews in Strasbourg. Taking time off from the parliamentary chamber, he talked about the new European Treaty, its ratification and its position with regard to the Charter of Fundamental Rights, as well as the issues which will, he said, determine the European Union's agenda in the coming months.
Lisbon Treaty, Reform Treaty, Mini Treaty. What is the exact name of this treaty?
I think in the end it'll be called the Treaty of Lisbon. You could equally call it the Reform Treaty. The Treaty of Lisbon will be a big step forward because it gives the European Union much greater capacity for action, greater democracy and transparency, and therefore it brings the EU closer to its citizens, so it's a huge step forward.
What will the European Parliament gain with this new treaty?
The European Parliament is the big beneficiary of this treaty because of co-decision. That is to say, it will be on an equal footing with the Council of Ministers. And co-decision will be extended to virtually 100% of all European legislation. There are a few exceptions, like tax. But immigration, asylum and questions of internal security will be passed by co-decision. That means that MEPs elected by the people will gain more influence, and that will be in the people's interests. So Europe is becoming more parliamentary, more democratic and closer to its citizens.
What part do you intend to play yourself in the ratification process next year?
The European Parliament approves of the treaty, and we'll give advice and exercise our influence with a view to getting a yes from all the national parliaments in the European Union too, so that it comes into force at the start of 2009, a few months before the European elections in June 2009.
Should the ratification process fail, should there be this time a B plan?
We're not expecting the treaty to fail because if we assume it could falter, failure is either guaranteed or very probable. That's why we must do everything in order to make the treaty a success and get it ratified. Whether it's by referendum, like in Ireland, or by national parliaments, both procedures are equally democratic. The choice of one method or another is down to the traditions in each member state. Each country decides how to ratify the treaty, be it by referendum or by parliamentary ratification. Both are democratic. And we want to do everything possible to ensure the treaty is ratified so it can come into force from 2009.
The Charter of Fundamental Rights is now separated from the treaty itself. Is it positive or negative for you?
It's not totally separated. You can't really say that. There's an article in the treaty which explains that the Charter will become a part of the treaty. That means that even if the Charter isn't written word for word in the treaty, it will become legally binding.
But the Charter was already signed in Nice in 2000. What's the use of signing it again today?
There are a few modifications in this Charter of Fundamental Rights, and the difference from Nice is that this Charter will now become part of the European Union legal framework. With Nice, we had only a solemn declaration. Now the Charter is integrated into European legislation, and that marks a big advance.
In Friday's summit, on what topic do you intend to draw the attention of the European leaders?
I think it's very important to reinforce internal security within Europe. Internal borders will disappear on the 21st of December, for example with Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And we also have to guarantee the security of our external borders. We have to ensure that internal freedom must not lead to more crime. We have to unite in the battle against crime in Europe, and internal security is vital. Of course, external politics will play a big part. Kosovo's future, the question over Kosovo's independence, these are very important issues. Cooperation with Mediterranean countries. All these are questions which concern us and which will play a key role in the summit.
What are the challenges ahead for you as President of the European Parliament next year?
2008 will be the year of intercultural dialogue. We want to emphasize that with a selection of speakers who will be invited to the European Parliament. And I'd also like to express in a unique way, through visits to Arab and Islamic countries, our desire for partnerships with the Arab and Islamic world.
Dass wir Partnerschaft wollen mit der arabischen, mit der islamischen Welt, sodass die
So the question of intercultural dialogue is really a very important subject. And if we pursue intercultural dialogue, we must also be sure of our own values. And for that, it's vital that the Charter of Fundamental Rights is at the forefront of people's minds, because in talking to other cultures, you have to know your own values.
Dann muss man selber wissen, welches unsere eigenen Werte sind.
Intercultural dialogue is a major part of the 2008 plan.
President Pöttering, thank you very much.
Ich danke Ihnen vielmals.